Very important factor when we're learning how to prophesy. I've been the recipient of some words just recently, and clarity around those words could have been increased primarily to be able to communicate what it was that God was actually trying to say to me. It's something that I try to communicate to the students that I teach, the people that I mentor, but it's also something that I really try to find articulation or articulate through very clear words as well as I possibly can when I am prophesying myself. And as someone who receives a prophetic insight in quite mystical ways, in a lot of metaphor and visual ways, I have learnt that I've had to ground those prophetic words so that they can be received well by the intended recipient. People who see mystically, hear mystically, primarily that they're seeing in the spiritual realm, even people that feel or that know uh, mystically, and we want to demystify that whole concept of mystically. Every way of hearing from God is mystical in essence, but those sort of people who are heightened that way need to learn how to take an impression, a prophetic impression, a spiritual impression, and then have a further conversation with God about what is it that you want me to communicate to the person that I'm about to prophesy over. There is so much power in clarity. There is so much power in articulating our prophetic words so that they are clear and that the person who is receiving those words can actually take action upon them. So clarity carries power when we communicate a prophetic word to others. We don't need to give a whole detailed explanation of what we see when we are giving a word from God to another. What we see, what we experience, no matter how mystical and exciting it is actually not relevant. And I think that, again, with social media and platforms and things like that, people love to talk about their crazy encounters and mystical, and I saw this angel and I saw that angel. Well, that's great. But why are you sharing what it is that you saw? And can you communicate the message that you're trying to communicate in a way that is clear and kind and able to be received by the people that are actually listening to what it is that you are trying to communicate? We, again, have to be so careful not to puff ourselves up through all of the crazy mystical experiences that we start to have when we start to pursue intimacy with God. So, what we see, what we experience, no matter how mystical and exciting, is not relevant to communicating what God is saying to you when we're trying to communicate to a person what it is that you saw, what you heard, felt, and knew. We need to say, all right, this is what I saw. What are you trying to tell me about that, Lord? And how can I then communicate that to someone? An example I love to give in class is that, I might suddenly get a flash of a picture of an example, some very large hot pink elephants flying across a purple background. And if I just communicate that to someone and say, well, this is what I see, there you go, you do something about it. I don't know what that means. That doesn't help anybody. So, what my job is as someone who's actually communicating a prophetic word of love, comfort, or encouragement to someone else is to say, God, all right, I can see that. What are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to say? And so I would start to unpack it. So it might be that that background is a symbolic of royalty as they learn to walk out or be grounded in their royal identity. They will start to grow in a significant healing gift. Hot pink for me is healing, and elephants are significant beings. So it might be that that's what God is saying. Now, if I ask God in that communication, and it happens in a flash, in that communication with God, if I'm not getting anything with clarity, it is in that situation I would then say to them, you know what? And I wouldn't communicate it as a prophetic word. I would actually be communicating it as, I'm not too sure what God is saying, but I think that He is saying something around this. Does this mean anything to you? So I would then say to them, look, I'm not sure what God is showing me or telling me about this. Does this mean anything to you? And I would then let them them know what I was seeing. And then it might be that it was a word of knowledge, not a prophetic word, not a prophetic insight. So it might be that as a child, they had a cuddle rug that had hot pink elephants flying across a purple background. And so it might be that that was a word of knowledge that was there for me to share with the person that would then open up their heart. All of a sudden, words of knowledge are beautiful. They are so incredible at how they can open up someone's heart to what it is that God is about to say to them. And they might say, yes, that was my cuddle rug when I was a little person. Or they might say, means nothing to me. And then in that moment, I'll just say to them, oh gosh, okay, I'm sorry. I'll ask God further about it. If I get anything, I'll let you know. But just to dump that sort of information upon someone is not helpful. Clarity is the powerhouse behind communicating prophetic words. So, to dump an impression on a person without communicating what God is saying through it is not good prophetic practice. It is important that we take what we see and converse with God about what He is telling us through what it is that we are discerning, what we're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, knowing. And then we package it in such a way that the message carries clarity. So, what God is saying to them is clear. It means that they can then take that away and go, okay, God, what else do you want to say to me about this? Because, of course, a prophetic word is not an end in and of itself, which is what I'm constantly saying. It's actually the start of a further conversation with God. So we don't just take the prophetic word and go, okay, this is great. We then take that prophetic word like a gift and we take it to the Father and say, how do I unpackage it? What are you telling me? What else is there about this? What timing is it? What do I need to do about this next? So an impression, as I've shared on at different times, an impression is not a prophetic word. An impression is merely an impression. It is up to us to have that lightning speed conversation with God in our heart. What else is there that you want me to communicate? What is it about that you want me to actually say? The mystical experience, or whatever way you receive an impression from God, is only half of the equation. You require a further conversation with God about what to do with what you see, taste, smell, hear, or know. Remember always, prophecy is to encourage, comfort, and strengthen. 1 Corinthians 14:3. I've misquoted that in the notes, so I'm sorry. 1 Corinthians 14:3. And a word that lacks clarity does not meet that standard, primarily because how can a word that has no clarity encourage, comfort, or strengthen someone? It just causes confusion. And God is not a God of confusion. God is not a God of confusion. It's very important for us to remember 1 Corinthians 13, 1-2. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but I do not have love, I am nothing. Clarity is a loving thing to find when it comes to prophecy. Clarity of communication is essential in this day and age of people running around talking about crazy mystical experiences. Clarity is the best way to communicate to one another. It's also the best way to try to teach one another. And clarity of communication is something, I think I see it as somewhat of a gift, to be perfectly honest. To be able to communicate something in simplistic terms is a gift. And it's funny, what I find particularly difficult myself is because I see in forms of poetry, God speaks to me in the language of poetry. I'll see things symbolically. I'll feel things deeply. I have to really try to unpack it. Sometimes I'll share some of the experiences that I've had, but I won't package it as a prophetic word. I'll say, this is quite a mystical experience, and I'm sharing it with you. But most of those things I keep to myself because it's an experience between myself and the Father. And I say to Him, okay, what is it about this that you want me to share? What is it about this, and how can I communicate this? And sometimes it comes across very simplistic, and people are like, well, that's really simple. And I went, yeah, It doesn't have to be rocket science. God wants us to know, He wants us to be able to connect with Him. It really is simple. The profound things are in many ways incredibly simple. There's such grace and beauty in the way that He communicates with us. So I hope that that helps. I hope that encourages. And we'll see you maybe sometime next week, unless God tells me to jump on again later today. Anyway, lots of love, and we will catch you soon. Clarity is a powerhouse behind prophetic words. Lots of love. Bye for now.